The silent observer. The bustling streets of Los Angeles hummed with life as the morning sun bathed the city in golden light. Among the crowd was Noah Carter, a 15-year-old boy with messy brown hair and deep-set blue eyes. He walked with purpose, gripping a small velvet pouch in his trembling hands. Inside was every penny he had saved from mowing lawns, washing cars, and running errands for neighbors. Today, he was going to buy something special, a necklace for his mother, Emma. Emma Carter had given everything for Noah. She worked tirelessly as a janitor at a high-end hotel, often coming home exhausted, but never without a warm smile for her son. When his Tourette syndrome made life unbearable, when classmates whispered, when strangers stared, when he felt like a burden, Emma reminded him that he was more than his condition. Today was his chance to give back, to prove that he saw and appreciated everything she did. But there was something else, something Noah didn't know. Sitting in the corner of a small boutique jewelry store, sipping a quiet espresso and flipping through an old book, was a man who would change his life forever. A man whose silent presence would be felt long after this day was over. That man was Keanu Reeves. A mother's love. Noah adjusted his hoodie as he stepped off the curb, his tics surfacing in nervous anticipation. His right hand clenched and unclenched, his shoulders jerked slightly, and a familiar grimace twisted his lips. The world had never been kind about it. He had spent years hearing the laughter, the mocking whispers. "Did you see that kid? What's wrong with him? Why does he keep blinking like that? Creepy." But Noah had learned to ignore it. His mother had taught him that his value wasn't defined by the ignorance of others. He pushed open the glass doors of DeVries & Co., an exclusive jewelry boutique nestled between towering buildings. The tinkle of a delicate bell rang through the air, announcing his arrival. Inside, everything sparkled. Display cases of delicate diamonds, shimmering gold chains, and intricate silver pendants lined the store. The scent of polished wood and expensive perfume hung in the air. Noah took a deep breath and stepped forward. Behind the counter stood Elliot Sinclair, a tall, impeccably dressed salesman with slicked-back blonde hair and an air of arrogance. His sharp, assessing gaze flickered to Noah, then immediately filled with disdain. Noah cleared his throat, his voice steady but soft. "Excuse me, sir. I'd like to buy a necklace for my mom." Sinclair barely glanced at him. His smile was thin, forced. "Are you sure you're in the right store, kid?" Noah nodded, ignoring the prickle of embarrassment. "Yes, I saved up. I know what I want." Sinclair sighed dramatically before stepping from behind the counter, his polished shoes clicking against the marble floor. "All right then, let's see what you've got." He held out his hand, eyes expectant. With unsteady fingers, Noah unfastened the velvet pouch and emptied its contents onto the glass counter. A mix of crumpled bills, coins, and a few neatly folded 20s tumbled out. A heavy silence followed. Sinclair's lip curled. "This is a joke, right?" Noah's stomach tightened. "No, sir. This is everything I have." His tics worsened. His shoulders jerked, his head twitched slightly, his fingers clenched into fists. Sinclair sighed theatrically, rolling his eyes. "Look, kid, this is DeVries & Co. We don't exactly deal in, how should I put this, pocket change." Several customers turned to watch. Noah swallowed. Heat rose in his cheeks. "But I really want to get something for my mom." Sinclair snorted. "How touching." His tone dripped with sarcasm. Keanu Reeves watched in silence. The breaking point. Noah felt the familiar sting of humiliation. He had worked for months to save up. He had skipped going to the movies with friends, had spent weekends sweating in the sun, just to afford something meaningful. And now he was being mocked. "You know what? Maybe try a department store, kid. They've got cute little plastic hearts. Should be more in your price range." A small chuckle rippled from a nearby customer. Noah's fists tightened. And then came the worst part. Sinclair mimicked him. He twisted his lips into an exaggerated grimace, mimicking Noah's tics. His shoulders jerked dramatically. His hands twitched in mockery. The customers laughed. Oops, was that a tic? My bad. Sinclair grinned cruelly. A sharp, searing shame crawled up Noah's spine. His throat burned. His vision blurred. His breath hitched. Not here. Not now. He grabbed his money, shoving it back into the pouch, and turned on his heel. That's what I thought. Sinclair muttered under his breath. Noah pushed open the doors, heart pounding. And then, a chair scraped against the floor. A deep, calm voice, one filled with measured authority, spoke. Hey, the room stilled. Noah stopped in his tracks. Sinclair's smug expression froze. Keanu Reeves stood. For the first time, Noah really looked at him. The unkempt dark hair, the signature black attire, the kind yet piercing eyes. The customers gasped in recognition. Sinclair blinked rapidly, as if suddenly realizing who he had just insulted a child in front of. Keanu took a step forward. That wasn't very nice. His voice was low, steady, and full of quiet disappointment. Sinclair swallowed hard. Noah held his breath. Something was about to happen. Something that would change everything. The unseen protector. The tension in the jewelry store was thick, so thick it hung in the air like an impending storm. The laughter that had once echoed through the luxurious boutique had died down into a suffocating silence. All eyes were locked on the man who had just spoken, Keanu Reeves. He stood with effortless grace, his sharp, dark eyes locked onto Sinclair with a calmness that somehow carried an undeniable weight. He wasn't angry. He wasn't shouting. He simply existed in the moment. And yet, somehow, that was more powerful than any outburst could ever be. Noah stood frozen near the door, his breath still uneven, his hands gripping the small velvet pouch so tightly that his knuckles turned white. His tics were worse than ever. His shoulders jerked erratically, his right eye blinked in rapid succession, and his fingers curled involuntarily. But Keanu didn't flinch. He didn't react with the usual pity or awkwardness that most people did. He simply existed alongside it, acknowledging Noah not as someone to be pitied, but as someone who had just been deeply wronged. Sinclair, on the other hand, had gone pale. The cocky, dismissive salesman who had just humiliated a child in front of a store full of people was now faced with one of the most beloved men in Hollywood, a man known for his kindness, humility, and deep sense of justice. Mr. Reeves. I didn't realize. Sinclair stammered, his hand smoothing out his suit as if that would erase what had just happened. Keanu took a slow step forward. His movement was deliberate, measured. He wasn't a man who needed to rush to make an impact. The room seemed to breathe with him. You didn't realize what? Keanu asked, his voice steady and controlled. Sinclair swallowed hard. I didn't realize that you were. Keanu's brow furrowed slightly, his dark eyes narrowing. You didn't realize I was here, so that makes it okay. Noah watched in silent awe. He had never seen someone like Keanu Reeves in real life. Sure, he had seen him on TV, in movies, had even heard the endless stories of how humble and kind he was. But to see him standing there, defending him, not because cameras were rolling, not because it was good PR, but because it was the right thing to do. Noah felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. A lesson in humanity. Sinclair let out a forced, nervous chuckle. Look, Mr. Reeves, I was just. You were just what? Keanu cut him off smoothly. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken words. Sinclair shifted uncomfortably. You were just mocking a child? Keanu asked, his tone calm, yet filled with quiet disappointment. You were just belittling someone for having a condition he can't control. Sinclair's mouth opened and closed, his confidence rapidly crumbling. Keanu exhaled through his nose, shaking his head slightly. You know it's funny, he mused, almost as if talking to himself. People talk about wealth and status, and they think that's what makes them important. He looked around the room, making eye contact with every single customer who had laughed along with Sinclair. The guilt on their faces was palpable. But kindness, Keanu continued, his voice steady, unshakable. Kindness is what makes someone truly valuable. No one spoke. Not a single person dared to meet Keanu's gaze. He turned back to Sinclair. And right now, you've made it very clear how little value you have. The words hit hard. Sinclair visibly flinched. Keanu didn't need to yell. He didn't need to threaten. He simply spoke the truth, and the truth had never carried so much weight. An unexpected turn of events. Sinclair cleared his throat, trying to salvage what little dignity he had left. I was just trying to explain that our jewelry is high-end. Maybe this young man should consider a more affordable place. Noah's stomach twisted. He was tired of this. Tired of being treated like he wasn't good enough. Tired of being looked down on just because he didn't have money to throw around. But before Noah could say anything, Keanu acted. Without another word, he reached into his own pocket, pulled out his wallet, and set his black Amex card on the glass counter. The entire store went silent. Sinclair's eyes bulged. Mr. Reeves. What? Keanu's lips pressed into a thin line. Noah, pick out the best necklace for your mother. Noah's heart stopped. He looked up at Keanu, his eyes wide with disbelief. Wait, Noah. I can't let you do that. Noah stammered, his tics coming in rapid succession. Keanu turned to him with a gentle smile, one that carried the warmth of someone who genuinely cared. You can, Keanu said simply. And you will. Noah's breath hitched. This man, this legend was standing here buying his mother a necklace without a second thought. Not because he wanted recognition, not because he wanted praise, because he wanted to. Because it was the right thing to do. Sinclair, however, looked as if he had just swallowed a lemon. He hesitated, but when Keanu arched a single brow, the salesman immediately snapped into motion. Right away, Sinclair muttered, rushing to the back. The store remained silent. Customers who had once laughed at Noah now watched in sheer embarrassment. The shame in their expressions was clear. But Noah didn't care about them anymore. For the first time, in a long time, he felt seen. The necklace that changed everything. When Sinclair returned, he was holding a stunning white gold necklace, adorned with a delicate sapphire pendant. This is our finest piece, Sinclair muttered, his arrogance replaced by humility. Keanu turned to Noah. What do you think? Noah's throat was tight. His mother loved sapphires. They reminded her of the ocean, the one place she had always dreamed of visiting, but never had the time or money to see. It's perfect, Noah whispered. Keanu nodded once. Then it settled. Sinclair silently ran the transaction, sliding the sleek, velvet jewelry box across the counter. Noah stared at it, unable to believe what had just happened. Go on, Keanu urged, his voice gentle. With trembling fingers, Noah picked up the box and held it close. It was real. It was his, for his mother. And for the first time, Noah didn't feel like a burden. He felt worthy. He felt like he mattered. A parting gift. As they walked toward the door, Noah turned to Keanu, eyes brimming with emotion. I don't know how to thank you, he whispered. Keanu smiled. You don't have to. Just do the same for someone else one day. Noah nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. As they stepped outside, the sun had never felt warmer. And Noah knew, without a doubt, that this moment, this day, had changed his life forever. When the story goes viral, the world had a way of spinning too fast sometimes. For Noah Carter, the last 24 hours had felt like something out of a dream. Except this wasn't a dream. It was real. One moment, he had been standing in a high-end jewelry store, clutching a small velvet pouch, filled with every dollar he had saved. The next, he was being mocked and humiliated by a man who saw him as nothing more than a broke, twitching kid. But then, in one simple act of kindness, Keanu Reeves had changed everything. Now the world knew his name. The video that broke the internet. Noah hadn't seen it happen, but someone in the store had recorded the entire encounter on their phone. From the moment Sinclair insulted him, to the moment Keanu Reeves called him out, to the legendary act of kindness, it was all caught on video, and someone had uploaded it. By the time Noah woke up the next morning, the video had millions of views. His phone, an old second-hand Android, was blowing up with notifications, texts, calls, emails, social media tags, all from people he didn't even know. People who had seen the video. People who were furious on his behalf. People who admired Keanu Reeves more than ever. And people who suddenly cared about him. A knock at the door. Noah sat on the couch in his small one-bedroom apartment, staring at his phone with wide, disbelieving eyes. His mom, Emma, was still at work, completely unaware of the viral storm that was happening. Then came the knock. A heavy, firm 3 taps against the door. Noah hesitated. No one ever visited them. Slowly, he walked to the door and peered through the peephole. His breath hitched. There were reporters. A lot of them. Cameras. Microphones. People shouting his name. Panic rose in his chest. His tics flared instantly. His shoulders jerked. His fingers curled tightly against his palms. His lips twisted involuntarily. What was happening? How had things escalated this quickly? The world reacts. By the time his mom got home, she already knew. Her coworkers had seen the video. Her boss had seen the video. The entire world had seen the video. She rushed through the door, still in her janitor uniform, eyes filled with worry and confusion. "Noah," she called, breathless. "What on earth is going on?" He showed her the phone. She watched the video in stunned silence. Her hands covered her mouth, her eyes filled with tears. "Oh, my sweet boy," she whispered. And then she saw him, Keanu Reeves, standing up for her son, standing up for him when the world had turned its back. Emma's heart swelled with emotion. This man, this celebrity, who had no reason to care, had done something she wished she could have been there to do. Protect Noah. Love him in a way the world refused to. Keanu speaks out. As the video spread like wildfire, Keanu Reeves himself was finally asked about it during an interview. A well-dressed reporter leaned forward, microphone in hand. "Keanu, the internet is buzzing about what you did for that boy in the jewelry store. Can you tell us what was going through your mind?" Keanu sat back in his chair, dressed in his usual laid-back black attire, fingers laced together. He exhaled slowly, as if choosing his words carefully. "I saw a kid getting treated unfairly," he said simply. "And I did what anyone should do." The reporter smiled. "But not everyone does." Keanu's jaw tightened. "That's the problem." The room went silent. He let the weight of his words settle before continuing. "People like that salesman think they can get away with cruelty because no one stops them. But I wasn't going to stand there and watch it happen." The clip instantly went viral. #BeLikeKeanu started trending on Twitter. Thousands of people praised his humility, his kindness, his willingness to stand up for someone who had been treated like less than human. And Noah, for the first time, he didn't feel invisible. He felt seen. The fallout. The next day, DeVries & Co. jewelry store released a statement. They apologized. They announced that Sinclair had been fired. They promised to do better. But it was too late. The internet never forgets. And the world had already made up its mind. A call from a stranger. Noah thought the craziness would die down eventually. But then, one evening, his mom's phone rang. She answered hesitantly. "Hello." A pause. Then a deep, familiar voice said, "Hi, is Noah home?" Emma's eyes widened. She turned to her son, mouth slightly open in shock. "Noah," she whispered. "It's him." Noah's heart nearly stopped. She handed him the phone, her hands shaking. With unsteady fingers, he pressed the phone to his ear. Hello. The voice on the other end was calm, warm, familiar. "Hey, buddy. It's Keanu." Noah's breath hitched. He almost dropped the phone. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. But it was. Keanu Reeves was calling him. And what he said next would change Noah's life forever. Keanu's invitation. A life-changing opportunity. Noah sat on the worn-out couch in their tiny apartment, his mother beside him, her eyes wide with shock. The phone trembled slightly in his hands. He had never expected this. A video going viral. Maybe. Reporters showing up at his doorstep. Terrifying, but understandable. But Keanu Reeves himself calling him. That was beyond anything he could have ever imagined. Hello. Noah stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. On the other end of the line, the voice was calm, familiar, and kind. "Hey, buddy. It's Keanu." Noah's breath caught in his throat. It was really him. Keanu Reeves, the man who had stood up for him, who had silenced an entire store with just his presence, who had bought the most beautiful necklace for his mom, was calling him. But why? A conversation he'd never forget. "Why, you don't have to do this," Noah blurted, still reeling from the shock. "You already did so much." Keanu chuckled softly. "I wanted to call you, Noah. I saw what happened after the video went viral. I just wanted to check in, see how you're holding up." Noah swallowed. His throat felt tight. People had been talking about him nonstop for the past 24 hours. He had gone from being a kid no one noticed to being the center of attention. And not all of it was good. There were thousands of supportive messages, but there were also people calling him an attention seeker, saying he was playing the victim, and even making fun of his tics all over again. He didn't expect Keanu to care about any of that. But he did. Noah hesitated, then admitted softly, "It's been a lot." Keanu's voice was steady. "I can imagine." There was a pause before Keanu continued. "Listen, Noah, I wanted to do more than just buy that necklace for your mom. I've been thinking, and I have an idea." Noah's heart pounded. "What kind of idea?" he asked cautiously. Keanu took a breath, then said the words that would change Noah's life forever. "How would you like to visit me in Hollywood?" A dream he never dared to have. Noah blinked. He must have misheard. Hollywood. As in, actual Hollywood. With movie stars, film sets, and everything that felt like it only existed in another world. "Whoa, what?" Noah stammered. Keanu chuckled. "Yeah, buddy, I want you to come out to LA, spend a few days. Get away from all the chaos. I want to show you around." Noah's hands shook. He had never even left his city before. Hollywood was something he only saw in movies. "Why me?" he whispered. Keanu's voice was gentle, yet firm. "Because I believe in you." Noah's throat closed up. No one had ever said that to him before. Not like this. Not like they meant it. From the corner of his eye, he saw his mother watching him closely, her eyes full of emotion. She nodded encouragingly, silently telling him, "Say yes." So he did. "Okay," Noah said softly, barely believing the words coming out of his own mouth. "I'd love to." Keanu's smile was almost audible. "Good. I'll take care of everything. Just pack a bag, and I'll see you soon." And just like that, Noah's life was about to change forever. The flight to a new beginning. 2 days later, Noah and his mother were boarding a first-class flight to Los Angeles. Everything had happened so fast. One moment, he had been a kid trying to buy a necklace for his mom. The next, he was on a plane to Hollywood, sitting in seats that felt too big and fancy for him. The flight attendants treated them like royalty, bringing them warm towels and offering drinks in actual glass cups. Noah fidgeted in his seat, his tics flaring up again. His fingers curled, his eye twitched, his shoulders jerked. He had learned to hate flying under the radar, but now, being watched for an entirely different reason was even more terrifying. His mother squeezed his hand. "You okay, baby?" she asked softly. Noah nodded, even though he wasn't sure. I don't understand why he's doing this for me." Emma smiled. "Because, sweetheart, sometimes people are just good. And Keanu, he's one of the best." Noah exhaled and looked out the window. The plane had begun its descent. Los Angeles glittered beneath him, a sprawling city of dreams, stretching all the way to the ocean. And waiting for him on the ground was the man who had given him something he hadn't had in a long time. Hope. A Hollywood welcome. When Noah and Emma stepped off the plane, they were greeted by a private driver holding a sign with their names on it. Everything felt surreal. The car that picked them up was sleek and black, the kind of vehicle Noah had only ever seen in movies. As they drove through the city, Noah pressed his forehead against the window, taking in the towering billboards, the palm trees, the golden glow of the California sun. And then they pulled up to a place that made his breath catch in his throat. A massive modern house nestled in the Hollywood Hills. Noah swallowed hard. This was where Keanu Reeves lived. Before he could process it, the front door opened, and Keanu himself stepped outside. Dressed in his usual black t-shirt and jeans, he gave them a small, warm smile. "Hey, buddy," Keanu said. Noah's heart hammered in his chest. This was real. This was happening. And what Keanu said next would shock him to his core. Keanu's big surprise. The opportunity of a lifetime. The California sun bathed the Hollywood Hills in gold, casting long, warm shadows over the sleek, modern house that stood before Noah Carter. His heart pounded in his chest. He had spent his whole life feeling like he didn't belong anywhere, like a shadow in the background, a kid people either mocked or ignored. But now he was standing in front of Keanu Reeves' house, and Keanu Reeves, the man himself, was standing right there, smiling at him like an old friend. "Hey, buddy," Keanu greeted, his voice as calm and steady as ever. Noah swallowed hard, his fingers curling involuntarily. His tics flared, his shoulders jerked slightly, his right hand twitched. But for the first time in a long time, he wasn't ashamed of it. Because Keanu wasn't staring at him weirdly. Keanu wasn't acting uncomfortable. He was just here. And somehow, that made all the difference. A house like no other. Keanu led Noah and his mother, Emma, inside. The house was nothing like Noah expected. It wasn't some over-the-top celebrity mansion with gold-plated floors or massive chandeliers. It was cozy, warm, lived in. The walls were lined with bookshelves, filled with everything from philosophy texts to old sci-fi novels. There were guitars leaning against the walls, an old record player sitting on a table, and a well-worn leather couch that looked like it had been someone's favorite seat for years. Noah took it all in, eyes wide. "This place is amazing," he admitted. Keanu chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck. It's home. Nothing fancy. Nothing fancy." The view alone looked like it belonged on a postcard. Emma stepped forward, her voice full of emotion. "Mr. Reeves, I don't even know what to say. You've done so much for my son already." Keanu held up a hand. "Please, call me Keanu." He smiled. "And honestly, you don't need to say anything. I just wanted to do something good." Noah couldn't believe it. People weren't like this. People didn't just do things out of kindness. At least that's what he had always been told. But Keanu was proving that wasn't true. The surprise of a lifetime. They sat in the living room, sipping cold lemonade as Keanu leaned back in his chair. Then, with a mysterious smile, he set his drink down and looked at Noah. "I have one more surprise for you," he said. Noah blinked. "More." Keanu grinned. "More." He reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope. Noah's stomach tightened with nerves as Keanu handed it to him. "What is it?" Noah asked cautiously. Keanu leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "Open it and find out." Noah hesitated, then slowly tore open the envelope. Inside was a letter and 2 official-looking papers. He skimmed the first few lines. Then his hands started shaking. His mother leaned over. "What is it, sweetheart?" Noah could barely form words. His vision blurred. His chest felt tight. Finally, he managed to whisper, I think it's a scholarship." His mother's breath caught. Keanu nodded, his eyes warm with quiet encouragement. "Not just any scholarship, buddy. A full ride to the best film and writing program in the country." Noah's heart nearly stopped. A full scholarship to one of the best schools for storytelling, film, and writing in the world. Him. Noah Carter. The kid people laughed at. The kid people mocked for his tics. The kid who had spent his whole life dreaming of stories, of creating something that mattered, only to be told he'd never make it. And now Keanu Reeves had just handed him a ticket to a future he never thought possible, a future he never dared to imagine. Noah's vision blurred with tears. "Whoa, why would you do this for me?" he whispered, his voice cracking. Keanu leaned back, watching him with the kind of quiet understanding that came from someone who had been through their own hardships. "Because, Noah," Keanu said gently, "I see something in you." Noah's breath hitched. Keanu continued, "I see someone who's been pushed down, told he's not enough, but who still keeps going. I see a storyteller, someone who has something important to say, and I want to help you say it." Noah couldn't breathe. For years, he had felt invisible, like no one saw him, like no one wanted to see him. But Keanu did. Keanu had seen him from the very beginning. And now he was giving Noah a chance to show the world who he really was. Emma wiped at her eyes, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't know how to thank you for this." Keanu smiled. "You don't have to. Just promise me one thing, Noah." Noah looked up, eyes still wet. "Anything," he whispered. Keanu's smile softened. "When you make it big, when you tell your story, and people finally hear your voice, promise me you'll help someone else the way I helped you." Noah didn't even have to think. "I promise," he said. And he meant it. More than anything, he meant it. A new beginning. That night, Noah lay awake in the guest room of Keanu's house, staring at the ceiling. His life had changed so much in just a few days. But for the first time in his life, he wasn't afraid of change. For the first time in his life, he felt like he had a future. Like he wasn't just a kid with Tourette's. Like he wasn't just someone to be mocked or ignored. He was Noah Carter. And he was going to make something of himself. Because one man, one incredibly kind, humble, and good man, had seen him when no one else did. And Noah would never forget it. Noah's journey begins from shadows to spotlight. The night after receiving the life-changing scholarship, Noah Carter lay awake in the guest room of Keanu Reeves' house. His mind was racing. The room was quiet and peaceful, but inside, he felt like he was standing at the edge of a cliff, staring into the unknown. For the first time in his life, he wasn't just hoping for a future. He had one. But could he do it? Could he really go to one of the best storytelling programs in the country? Could he actually make something of himself? Or had Keanu made a mistake believing in him? A morning like no other. Noah must have drifted off at some point, because the next thing he knew, he was waking up to the smell of coffee and bacon wafting through the air. He rubbed his eyes, his body still buzzing with nervous energy, and pulled himself out of bed. As he stepped out of the guest room, he heard voices in the kitchen. And then, laughter. Not just any laughter. Keanu's. Noah hesitated, his heart pounding for no reason. He had spent his whole life avoiding attention. But now, attention had found him. Taking a deep breath, he stepped into the kitchen. Keanu was sitting at the counter, a mug of coffee in hand, while his mother, Emma, was flipping pancakes. Emma turned and grinned when she saw him. "Morning, sweetheart." Keanu lifted his coffee. "Morning, buddy." Noah blinked. Keanu Reeves was having breakfast in the same kitchen as his mom like it was completely normal. This wasn't normal. But somehow it felt right. Morning," Noah mumbled, sliding into a chair. His mom placed a plate of pancakes in front of him, and for the first time in a long time, he felt like he was at home. Not just in a place, but in a moment. Facing the fear. After breakfast, Keanu leaned back in his chair, watching Noah carefully. "You're nervous," Keanu observed. Noah froze mid-bite. Keanu chuckled. "It's okay, buddy. I'd be nervous too." Noah set his fork down. His tics flared. His fingers curled involuntarily. His shoulders jerked slightly. "I don't know if I can do this," he admitted. What if I fail?" Keanu didn't hesitate. "Then you fail," he said simply. Noah blinked, startled by the answer. Keanu leaned forward, resting his arms on the table. "But failing isn't the worst thing that can happen, Noah. The worst thing is never trying." Noah swallowed hard. Keanu continued. "Do you know how many times I failed? How many times I got rejected, laughed at, told I wasn't good enough?" Noah shook his head. "More times than I can count," Keanu said. "I slept on friends' couches when I was broke. I lost people I loved. I doubted myself every step of the way. But if I had let that stop me, I wouldn't be here." His voice softened. "And if you let that fear stop you, you'll never know what you're capable of." Noah's breath hitched. For years, he had been told what he couldn't do. But now, for the first time, someone was telling him what he could. He straightened his shoulders. "I want to try," he said. Keanu smiled. "Good." Then he stood up and held out his hand. "Come with me." Noah hesitated. "Where?" Keanu grinned. "You'll see. Hollywood, the heart of storytelling." They drove through the streets of Los Angeles, the towering buildings and palm trees passing by in a blur. Noah couldn't believe he was here. This was Hollywood, the place where dreams were made, and where they were broken. Keanu pulled up to a massive film studio lot, rolling down the window at the security booth. The guard immediately recognized him. "Mr. Reeves, go right in." Noah's stomach flipped as the gates swung open. What are we doing here?" he asked cautiously. Keanu smiled. "Giving you a proper welcome to the world of storytelling. Behind the scenes of a legend." The moment they stepped onto the studio lot, Noah's world changed. He had seen movie sets before, on TV, in interviews, but never in real life. Now he was walking through a place where stories were created from nothing but imagination. Keanu led him through the lot, waving at crew members, nodding at directors. "Most people think Hollywood is just glitz and glamour," Keanu said. "But the real magic, it happens right here, in the minds of the people who dare to tell their stories." Noah's fingers twitched as they passed a massive soundstage. "I want to tell stories too." Keanu stopped and turned to him. "You will." Noah exhaled slowly. Could this really be his future? Not just watching movies, but making them. Not just reading stories, but writing them. The final lesson. As they walked through the set, Keanu suddenly stopped in front of a quiet, empty stage. There was nothing but a single chair in the center. Keanu gestured to it. "Sit." Noah hesitated, then slowly walked over and sat down. Keanu stood in front of him, hands in his pockets. "You know what this is?" Keanu asked. Noah shook his head. "This is where it all begins." Noah frowned. "I don't get it." Keanu smiled. "Every actor, every director, every writer, they all start in a chair just like that one. Sitting alone, wondering if they're good enough, wondering if their story is worth telling." He crouched down so he was at eye level with Noah. "And do you know the only thing that separates the ones who make it from the ones who don't? Noah shook his head. Keanu's eyes softened. They get up. Noah's breath caught. Keanu smiled. They get up, and they start. They write the first word. They take the first step. They tell the first story. And before they know it, they aren't just dreaming anymore. They're living it. Noah stared at him, his chest tight with emotion. Keanu stood up and offered his hand again. So, Noah, are you ready to get up? Noah didn't hesitate this time. He grabbed Keanu's hand and stood. And in that moment, he knew. His story was only just beginning. Noah's first big break. The story that changes everything. For most of his life, Noah Carter had been invisible. He was the kid people ignored or mocked. The kid with the tics, the one who made weird movements, the one who was always in the background, watching as the world moved forward without him. But now he was standing in the middle of a Hollywood film studio, right beside Keanu Reeves. And for the first time in his life, he wasn't just watching the story unfold. He was about to write his own, the first step into a new world. After their time in the studio, Keanu and Noah had returned to the house in the Hollywood Hills, where they sat outside, the city lights sprawling beneath them like a sea of stars. "How are you feeling?" Keanu asked, sipping his tea. Noah let out a shaky breath. "Like my life doesn't feel real anymore." Keanu chuckled. "That's the best part." Noah fidgeted with his hands, his tics subtly surfacing again. "I don't know if I can do it, though. I mean, what if I get to that film school and I suck?" Keanu turned to him with calm confidence. "You will suck." Noah blinked. "Oh, thanks." Keanu laughed, shaking his head. "No, I mean it. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to write things that don't work. You're going to doubt yourself." He leaned back against his chair. "But that's part of it. The ones who make it. They push through the bad stuff until they create something great." Noah swallowed. "You've already taken the first step, Noah," Keanu continued. "Most people never even try. But you're already ahead of the game." Noah looked down at his hands. Could it really be true? Could he actually be someone? Before he could think too much, Keanu pulled out his phone and tossed it to Noah. "Write something," he said. Noah froze. "Do you what?" Keanu nodded toward the phone. "A scene. A moment. Anything. Just write." Noah stared at the screen. His mind felt like a blank canvas. But slowly, words began to form. And once he started, he couldn't stop. The words that changed everything. For the next 3 hours, Noah wrote nonstop. Keanu sat beside him, quiet but encouraging, sipping his tea as Noah's fingers danced across the screen. The words poured out of him, words about a boy who had spent his whole life in the background, about a kid who had been laughed at, about someone who had been invisible until one person saw him. By the time he was done, his fingers ached, and his heart felt lighter than it had in years. Keanu took the phone, reading in silence. Noah held his breath. And then Keanu smiled. "This," Keanu exhaled, shaking his head in awe. "This is good." Noah's heart stumbled over itself. "You think so?" he asked hesitantly. Keanu nodded, still scrolling through the script. "I think this needs to be made." Noah stared. "Wait, what?" Keanu set the phone down and turned to face him, eyes alight with excitement. "I want to help you turn this into a short film." Noah forgot how to breathe. "You? What?" Keanu grinned. "You heard me. I think this story is important. I think people need to hear it. And I want to help you tell it." Noah was speechless. He had just written this script a few hours ago. And now Keanu Reeves was saying he wanted to help make it into a film. Noah's hands shook. His whole life, he had been told what he couldn't do. Now, for the first time, someone was giving him a chance. And he wasn't about to waste it. The filming begins. Within a few days, things moved faster than Noah could process. Keanu made a few calls, and suddenly, Noah had a team of professionals helping him bring his story to life. A director, a cinematographer, a full film crew. It was surreal. One moment, Noah had been just a kid with Tourette's, mocked in a jewelry store. Now he was standing on a real film set, watching actors bring his words to life. It wasn't a huge production, just a short film, something small. But to Noah, it was everything. Keanu was there every step of the way, guiding him, encouraging him, teaching him the art of storytelling. And when it was done, when the final scene was shot, when the credits rolled, Noah felt something he had never felt before. Pride. He had done it. He had created something real. Something that mattered. The moment the world noticed him, Keanu insisted that Noah submit the short film to festivals. Noah had doubted himself again, but Keanu had simply grinned and ignored him, sending it off to multiple film competitions. And then, one day, while Noah was back home, his phone buzzed. An email. Noah opened it, his eyes widening in shock. His short film had been accepted into one of the biggest independent film festivals in the country. Keanu had been right all along. People wanted to hear his story. And now, the world was finally listening. A life changed forever. Months passed. Noah's short film made waves at the festival. People saw it. They talked about it. And suddenly, Noah wasn't just a kid with Tourette's anymore. He was a storyteller, an artist, a filmmaker. And it had all started with one moment of kindness from a man who had seen him when no one else did. The final promise. A year later, Noah stood on the red carpet at another film festival, this time as a guest speaker. His life had changed so much. He was now studying screenwriting at one of the top film schools in the world, and his name was becoming known in the industry. And yet, through it all, one promise remained. One day, as he walked off stage, he saw a young boy in the crowd, looking nervous, fidgeting with his hands, his tics visible. People whispered about him, just like they had whispered about Noah once. Noah didn't hesitate. He walked up to the boy, smiling warmly. "Hey," he said gently, "you okay?" The boy looked up at him, wide-eyed. You're Noah Carter." Noah grinned. "That's me." The boy swallowed. "I have Tourette's too. I want to be a writer, but I don't think anyone will ever take me seriously." Noah crouched down so they were eye level. "Do you know who told me I could do this?" he asked. The boy shook his head. Noah smiled. "Keanu Reeves." The boy's jaw dropped. Noah put a hand on his shoulder. "And now, I'm telling you, you can do this. You just have to start." The boy's eyes filled with hope. And in that moment, Noah knew he had kept his promise.